The GoldSrc engine? What's that, I hear you ask? Well, probably not actually. Well, to some it's a game engine. To me it's an endless stream of possibilities and fond memories. No wonder they named it after the best chocolate bar. Don't at me. Not only is it home to masterpieces such as the original Half-Life bundle, Not You, it spawned various epic games in different forms such as TF.
Attention, all Team Fortress 2 gamers. The Heavy is in real trouble and he needs your help to steal the intelligence from the opposing team.
CS, and the greatest piece in gaming history. Now I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know the deeper details of GoldSrc, and really the closest I've ever got is writing for an unfinished mod and making a couple of super basic maps in Source. What I can comment on is what everyone appreciates. Mods. Mods are awesome, and some of the better ones are basically games in their own right. Stuff like Afraid of Monsters, Cry of Fear, Gunman, They Hunger, all sorts. I mean, they're really rich experiences that I think everyone should play at least once. I'd like to go on a review of each of these at some point, but until then, stick with me. Also, what mods do you think everyone should try before they die? Well, I suppose this goes for quite a few newer engines. GoldSrc has this sort of versatility. From what I've seen and heard, you can pretty much pull any kind of genre off in a convincing way. Even comedy, if you would call this game comedy. There's just a lot of customization elements that are relatively easy to access, and therefore that goes a long way when you have hundreds, thousands even, putting their hard work and time into experiences that still manage to surprise us to this day. Some engines have a distinct feel to them, which is mostly found more on the horror side of the genre table, but GoldSrc can lend itself to pretty much every genre out there. This is partially because of its almost open-ended nature, whereby a simple change of ambience and texture can make all the difference in the world. But also with the easy-to-access SDK, I imagine the modding community has collectively learned, created, and experienced so much within the engine and its tools that it's almost inevitable that there be some gems out there. According to friend and information boy Jackathan, in my Discord, which you should totally join, the engine has this simplicity and stability that beats Source, but also a lot of other engines when it comes to modding. Overall, this makes it a lot more accessible and enjoyable. I think it's pretty important that creators are able to enjoy what they do, because you always get a better product in the end, and of course, they deserve it. Another thing though, is in terms of visuals, mods created in GoldSrc require a lot less work in order to look acceptable. While that can obviously be owed in part to the lower graphical fidelity of the textures in general, it's also because of the way everything's done. That's almost a deliberately vague point, but when I see smaller textures in GoldSrc, it feels more like a stylistic choice. Maybe it's because the controls are so tight and consistent, but the graphics come as a kind of secondary element. It's more like you're playing a retro-inspired map. It just feels so right. However, don't think I've forgotten about the N-word. Nostalgia. Some people don't want any sort of upgrade to the experience, which raises an interesting point. How much of this is just a warm, fuzzy callback to the original Half-Life, and how much of this is genuinely stuff to celebrate? Well, as someone who started playing the first game relatively recently, a fact that may shock you, I can say I'm way more influenced by Half-Life 2 than Half-Life when it comes to nostalgia, which is probably why I overlook a lot of the ways that the sequel is probably a worse game than the first. And as a relatively unbiased person, I can kind of agree. On Reddit, I asked people whether they preferred the first or second game, and one or two people pointed out something I always seem to come across. They described a warmth within the engine. The low fidelity sounds and the low poly models give this almost subdued, otherworldly feeling. The games that represent the engine and the offspring that we call mods aren't trying to wow you with cheap effects, unforgettable graphics, or any kind of substitute for a fleshed out experience. And sure, this may not have made as much sense as a point when the engine's graphics were still cutting edge, but the fact that there are still so many gifted, persistent people still working pretty damn hard to deliver magnificent microwave mods is the real power of GoldSrc. It stood the test of time, and it represents a sort of dying art. People doing what they love because they love it, often not even for profit. Even if you're a newcomer or you don't appreciate the mods themselves, you have to appreciate that. The engine is the strong, steady foundation on which we build, and the people bring the innovation, ingenuity, and design we've come to love. Sometimes mods are indistinguishable from Half-Life itself. Sometimes they're better. Sometimes they're something completely different. But one thing's for certain. With an engine like GoldSrc, you still have thousands of hours of fun ahead. And if you can't find the right mod for you, you can make it. There are so many tutorials and communities out there. I see no reason why GoldSrc mods should ever die out. And now I'm at the risk of dragging this video out, so I'm just going to say thanks to the following Patreons on your screen now for essentially redesigning my entire setup. Thank you so much. I'm really sorry that I haven't been putting as much content out lately. I've I've just had a bit of a difficult time, and I know you don't want to hear about it. So don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and maybe hit the bell for more videos about the games you love. Finally, you can join my Discord and follow my Twitter for updates, giveaways, game nights, and memes. Love ya.